Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here. In this video, I'll be covering the top 5 decks for you to play up until the next expansion comes out and the Death Knights come out, which is like a week and a half away. So you've got a little bit of time to play some really good decks, grind your level up there, and see as far as you can get until we get a brand new meta. Super excited for that. Before then, I did a community poll asking if you guys wanted a free Lich King bundle giveaway. I said if it gets 1K yeses, we would give away a bundle in this video. So, and I honestly don't know the 11% that said no. Hundreds of people said no, but we got above 1K, which means more than 1K said yes. So we're giving it away. So how we're going to do this giveaway: before, you just normally be subbed to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, you're entered, done deal. This one, we're going to mix it up. So while you will need to be subbed to the channel and like the video, the comment you're going to leave is going to be red, blue, or yellow. Then on December 5th, at the beginning of the video, I will spin this wheel. Whatever color that it lands on, if that was the color of your comment, I will then take everybody who commented that color, spin another wheel with a number, and then the number it lands on will be the winner of that giveaway. So I'm just trying to think of ways to make this creative. I think this will be pretty fun. Gonna see a lot of reds, yellows, and blues, and depending, there may be only 10 people say blue, and that's the color it land on. And then you have like a 1 in 10 chance to win the bundle. It should be exciting. And again, the winner will be announced on the 5th, right before the expansion goes live. And at the beginning of that video, I will we'll have a winner picked out with this method that I'll show. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. And with that, let's go back to the top 5 best decks. What we have now are the best decks that you can play right now, so you guys can get to Legend or whatever ranks that you want to get to before all of that happens. Put you in a good spot before we see some new stuff. So first one's first, Curse, Imp, Warlock. If you play it all right now, this should not be a surprise to you. This deck is actually just insane. There's 2 iterations of this deck. There's ones that run the Curse package, and then there's one that runs more Imps and like buffing Imp cards. Both of them are really, really good. My preference, if I were to play one, is the Curse one, just because it adds a little bit more to the deck, in my opinion. However, the Imp one shows it's doing a little bit better than the Curse package one, but for preference and just for style of play and for the funness level, the Curses have always been a good time, and the Imp package is just very strong. So if you're familiar with this deck at all, it curves out with all of your early game Imps in your Vial library to buff them, and then towards that middle of the game, you're playing stuff that adds curses to your opponent's hands, Lady Darkvein to Grimoire of Sacrifice to get 2 Abyssal Waves to go off, and then of course you have late game Imp King Reform. So the curses can kill your opponents, and most of the time the Imps are just enough to kill your opponents. The deck's very strong, and it pulls wins out of games it should never have. Whenever I play this deck, which isn't very often, there's just games that there's no way that I would think I'd win, and then this deck just does what this deck does because it's one of the best decks you can play, and then you win. So very strong deck here, very, very good deck. And if you like Imps, you like Warlocks, and you like Curses, that's going to be a good way for you. The next one is probably one of my favorites out of this 5. Very, very versatile deck, very fun deck to play. A lot of the games, they feel different because of the discounts you get with Relic of Dimensions. It is a relic deck, so as we know, the 3 types of relics is the Relic of Extinction, you have the Relic of Phantasms, and then you have the Relic of Dimensions, all of which are exceedingly good and even more powerful with the Relic Vault, which basically allows you to cast it twice. And then from there, the deck just has a lot of Fel cards which do damage, and then your late game card that synergizes with your Fel cards is going to be Jace. So with the discounts that you get with the Relic of Dimensions, you can hit Bram Bronzebeard, which will allow you to like Artificer twice or Jace twice. You have, of course, Kurtrus, because you're summoning a lot of minions with your relics, and there's just a lot of small minions with Scorpion and School Teacher and all that good stuff. So very, very well-rounded deck. A lot of people are playing this one, and that's just because Fel spells are fun with Jace, and then relics have been one of my favorite packages this past expansion. In total, there's just so many different Demon Hunter decks that you can build with the relic package, and this Fel relic package is the most popular, and it is, in my opinion, the best one that you can play. So Fel Relic Demon Hunter, very, very fun, very quick deck to beat down your opponents with, and it has a ton of end game, late game value with those, like we said, relics. Taking a look at Druid. So Druid has a massive amount of different builds right now, whether you're playing like the token early game aggressive Druid that you see a lot of, but my preference and what I see to be doing really, really well is going to be this sort of ramp / mill Druid. If you don't like the due process, you can of course take this out for any other key ramp cards. But this adds a little spice to the deck because you do have all of your late game Sire Denathrius, Raid Boss, Insatiable Devourer, Topior, so you have all of that juicy late game stuff, but you also have the card draw to back it up, and then you also have that win con if your opponent is playing a deck that they can't play a lot in one turn, looking at like a lot of priests that are out there, a lot of rogues that are out there. This is kind of just like an additional win con if your Sire Denathrius does get stolen with Theo or it gets eaten with Mutanus or stuff like that. So this Ramp Druid does ramping things very, very well. I just don't know how with 40 cards, it is amazing with 40 cards how you can be so consistent with getting the guff, getting the ramp. And that's just because this deck draws so fast. You have a lot of opportunities to play cards. And then once you do hit your guff, even though this deck draws a massive amount of cards, being able to go up to 20 mana, I mean, you're just spending more than your opponent can. Your hand is always going to have cards in it. Your opponent's going to be struggling to play their cards because they just don't have the mana to play everything that they want. And you're sitting there feeding them 3, 4, 5 cards a turn, depending on how many due processes you can get off with, you know, school teaching, moonlit guidancing, playing planted evidence can get it some more. So Druid, very, very good position. Also, new addition, Spreading Plague. Because Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion did enter this last month in the season, the Spreading Plague is just such a fantastic anti-aggro Druid card, because before it's really dependent on scales, but now you basically have Spreading Plague, which just wins against most aggro decks if you can make it till turn 6, and it also beefs up Sire Denathrius in your hand as well. So Spreading Plague was like an insane addition to this deck, and it just got even better. So very, very good deck here. One of my favorites. I love Druid. I love Ramp Druid. And this deck does everything you want it to do. Taking a look at Thief Rogue. This is the deck that got popularity, was really good, lost popularity, gained popularity, lost popularity, and now we're back to this deck being popular again. And it mainly revolves again around this jackpot, and we got a couple new secrets with stuff like Perjury and the Double Cross. So being able to jackpot, add 2 random spells from other classes to your hand that cost 5 or more. We combo that with stuff like Swift Scale Trickster. If you can find yourself getting Dragonfire Amulets, Rune of the Archmages, really any just giant spell that does amazing things, you're probably just going to win, because you can then combo that with Contraband Stash. You have Tess in here. You can Shadow Step Tess. Of course, you have got Sire Denathrius because you're going to be summoning a lot of small minions. There's a whole secret package in this deck, like we've mentioned before, with the 2 new rogue secrets. And then you also have Perjury, which can find yourself mage secrets, which are really good. So free objections, free counter spells. I mean, this card's really just nuts. And then from there, you have like Sketchy Stranger to get some more secrets. You've got Gravedigger, which if you have a secret, you discover a card from your opponent's hand and then shuffle it back to their deck. So there's really, really good stuff this rogue can do. Very flexible. However, if you don't get the early game, it can be quite slow and die to a lot of aggro decks. But in regards to value, I'm not sure how this deck could possibly lose to any control deck, just by the sheer amount of stuff that you generate, how much control you have with your opponent's hand, and then just the swing turns you have with Contraband Stash, Test Greymane, and all those Shadow Steps. So this Thief Rogue is quite good. A lot of people playing it, and it absolutely slaps. The last deck we're going to talk about is actually one of the only decks in the game that has been like a tier S deck for like months on end, but yet its popularity remains fairly low because of the fact that it's just so unfun to play. This is not a lot of players' favorite decks. However, if you do like this style of deck, you like buff priest, and you like that sort of combo priest, it's going to be a perfect deck for you. The deck's like I said, it's insane. It has favorable matchups all across the board. It's so hard to deal with. But again, your win condition is basically the same every single game. You play Nagas, you play some spells, you buff them up, and you hope your opponent can't remove them. While this deck is incredibly powerful if played correctly, there are some misplays you can make with this deck, because the turns do require quite a bit of cards and playing them in a proper order. And how you win is, again, going to be relatively the same every single game. But it's still a tier S deck. It's been a tier S deck for a long time, and a lot of people have great success with it. But however, it doesn't play like most of the other decks where we covered, where most games are going to feel different. I don't know. I feel like you can get bored of this deck very fast, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. Like, this is, whenever you play a Naga Priest, it is always going to be a scary game. Almost regardless of what deck you're playing, this is just, you're scared of Naga Priest. And I'm glad it's not so popular, because it's really, really good. But if you're wanting to win, you want a little bit of a challenge, and this is a good deck for you. So with that, those are my top 5 decks for you guys to play until the new expansion comes out and the Death Knight comes out, because I'm sure once that comes out, everybody's gonna be playing Death Knight. But until then, these 5 decks that I have listed here are gonna do absolutely fantastic for you guys.